This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Hey everyone, it is me. We are here. Joseph is here too. Say hi, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Boom, boom, boom. We're recording.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I am recording this on the computer now.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Boom. All right. It says it's recording. Boom, 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 boom. I am apparently recording.
The entire bottle of control. They're all exactly the same.
Crypto art, and then what it really is an NFT.
Wow. Eddie wants to slap the bag.
So this is the next best thing.
DeFi is going to be a bubble.
It's provably scarce.
With Mad Dog.
Crypto, gold, and silver.
Transparent substance.
Take my money, start a war with it.
Without further ado,
Cheers to you, brother.
get shit done.
Because the system has to collapse before that.
My corona.
Cheers. I feel much better now.
Cheers.
Wow, that was heavy.
Boom. Welcome to Blockchain and Booze number 129.
Cheers to that.
129 weeks into this. Cheers, guys. This is going to be a fun one.
Cheers.
All three of these guys are experts in their field. We're going to learn about their project. We'll probably talk about the merge a little bit. That's happening in a few hours. Crispin joking in the backstage saying, "Woo, I was worried about the ties." I think you're talking about the graphic at the beginning. I think we all had pictures where we were dressed super fancy, and but this is crypto, man, and a live stream. You know, we're not even in real life. You know, this is as fancy as I get. This is okay. If I'm going to be honest, really quick before I jump into the actual homework and the things I'm supposed to say at the beginning, this shirt, if you ever see me wearing it, it's the shirt that I keep like 90% of the time on the back of my chair for when I, in an emergency situation, oh shit, I have to put on a shirt right now because I'm working from home and I'm probably not wearing a shirt 99% of the time. And then my alert goes off going, oh shit, you have a Zoom meeting right now. That's a little behind the scenes, probably a little TMI for all of you. But welcome to Blockchain and Booze. If you are watching on one of the live streams like Lunar Crush, or on YouTube or anywhere else, go to blockchainbooze.io if you want to be able to chat with the rest of the community, turn on your camera when we're done and hang out and do all that stuff. Also, a big thank you to Blockchain Radio, who syndicates this and plays this after every week, and for doing that. And one quick piece of homework that I always forget to throw up. We have LA Blockchain Summit coming up November 1st to the 3rd. The opening party will actually be on Halloween the night before. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you're not already making plans, start making plans. We're going to have a great time. Guys, welcome. 129. This will be a good one. You know, we've been talking a lot about NFTs and everything else that's very, very hypey. And you know, getting exciting the last couple years, but I'm excited to talk a little DeFi, talk a little stable coins, and you know, we were talking backstage a little bit about the merge. A little shout out to Benedetto, who's online at like 2 a.m. right now, his time. The rest of us are online at reasonable hours. Thank you for doing it. But let's jump in, guys. I'd like to go let's just go around the circle. Start with you, Ivan, and just give us a little background on yourself and your background, and then how you got into crypto. Then we'll get into your companies on round two.
I think if I gotta do the whole story, it's gonna take too long. So I'm just gonna super abridge one, and if something relevant comes up, I'll sneak it in there. But obviously, my background is in portfolio management trading. So when something came up, I said, hey, look, this is at the intersection of finance and crypto. This was like 2012, 13. Obviously, we got into it, got my friends to get into it, and we all traded on this venerable venue called Mt. Gox. And, clearly
Good old days.
that's how you get initiated, right? If you don't get rug once, it doesn't really count, right?
I will.
And then,
maybe I shouldn't go into it while we're doing the intros, but I didn't really get to participate much Mountain Gox, but the big initiation for me was like Ether Delta, right?
Yes,
that was the exchange that really, you rubbed yourself every time you participated on Ether Delta.
Yes. We can go back to those stories. I'm sure we'll have more time on that. So after that, we played around for a while, got into crypto mining in Ethereum in 2016. So we basically bought up all these machines in Best Buy, and they stopped selling to us because they thought we were a wholesaler. That's how we got involved with Ethereum. And, we saw DeFi come in, which is exactly what most of us are now involved in, right? We were at fixed income portfolio management. We've been in crypto for 10 years. It's like, well, this is the intersection of fixed income and crypto. What better thing to be involved with? And that's how Pennyworks was born. So that's my little quick 30-second intro.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, we're going to have to jump into it. But let's go. You next, Benedetto.
Yeah, so I was meeting blockchain more first as technology during my master's study I was studying in management, engineering, and innovation. So I had a course over IT technologies, and there I met blockchain. Then I started to work for a software house in Italy, which is Blockchain Italia, as project manager. And there it's where I met also the DeFi summer, and it was pretty, pure love. And DeFi, it was what really takes me into wanted to build something good and that can really do something that matters to society. So that's my quick overview. But in general, I'm an engineer, moved from mechanical engineering to IT just because mechanical was boring for me.
Nice.
Very cool. Very cool. And Rafael, what's your background and how'd you get into the space?
Thanks, Alon, and I appreciate having me on. My background is in computer science. I studied CS at Stanford, graduated 2015, and then pretty quickly after founded the company that would become Trust Token. Actually, I want to say, Benedetto, when I actually went into college, I started in mechanical engineering and then moved over to computer science because I just followed a similar path. There's something very compelling about just being able to sit down at a computer, write some software, and just turn it out. There's very few things like that elsewhere in the world. But I first encountered crypto while I was in school, but didn't get full-time into it until 2017 when my startup hard pivoted. We just hard pivoted it into becoming a crypto company. And I can tell you some fun stories about that later.
Sweet.
Very cool. So when you say, your startup hard pivoted into crypto, right? Was that Trust Token or was that a previous startup?
It's this startup. Its first incarnation, it was the name of the company was Zen Trust, and we made software for estate planning, software to help people make their wills and trusts. And we were about a year into building that and starting to have our first customers and first revenue. And we just saw, we'd been following what was happening in crypto for a while. Yeah. We saw what was happening in 2017 and we thought, man, there have got to be some opportunities for us here that are going to be more compelling than, because the estate planning business was, it was having some issues. It was getting a little more competitive. And we saw what was happening with Tether. Yeah. And that was our in, because we said, look, we're a very unique team because we've got, tech people and we've got legal expertise as well, just because of what we were doing, estate planning software. Mm-hmm. And we said, we think we can just build a modern stablecoin, build a stablecoin the way it was meant to be. And that was the birth of TrueUSD. And from there, we were just off to the races.
That's really cool. It's interesting because, I think there's some huge opportunities, and it's probably it might be a little early right now, but I know I've dabbled in exploring some of these. Joseph, my partner, and I actually kind of worked up an idea, and we're trying to work with somebody to build a tool like this, not exactly a legal trust, but like a crypto decentralized style trust, right?
Yes.
And nobody's really done that in a great way yet, as far as I know, but there's nothing, smart contracts, like how great, you could probably build some great products. And I know this isn't going into what Trust Token actually does, but just thinking about trusts, right? Like, why don't I have somehow the keys to all my hardware wallets or the keys to all my crypto and stuff living in some kind of smart contract that can, like, basically, if I don't ping it every certain period of time, or it, gives me some kind of grace period, if I don't do any transactions from my wallet or from a specific wallet in a certain period of time, it assumes I'm dead, gives me one last chance. And if, it doesn't work, sends the keys to my wife or something, or distributes this NFT to this person, this thing to that person, or whatever. Like, it's a smart contract could very easily do some of these things without any intermediaries. It's interesting that nobody's done it quite yet. If anyone is working on it, I know there are some. Hit me up. I'd love to learn. But coming from that space and doing that, how do you feel about that? Do you think I'm oversimplifying it, or?
I think something like that completely makes sense. Our in with trusts and similar entities and smart contracts was actually almost the reverse. It was figuring out how can we get to have legal entities and assets in the real world, within the normal legal system, that are controlled by a smart contract in a legally binding way. That was really the genesis of TrueUSD, right? Where we have US dollars that are held exclusively on the behalf of the token holders, which we think is really the proper way to design a stable coin, and I think has been replicated many times since.
As far as I understand, it's 1-for-1, right? Like, one US dollar exists for one TrueUSD token, right?
Exactly. Very simple. And then later in 2020, we launched TrueFi, which is our protocol for uncollateralized lending in DeFi. And that's a similar concept of, okay, you want to do a loan to an actual business in the real world, right? Yeah. And somehow you need that to correspond to, something that's happening in a DeFi protocol. How do you do that in a legally binding way? Go from on-chain to off-chain, and then once you have repayment, go back to on-chain. And how do you handle defaults, collections, and so on? So that kind of smart contract to legal entity connection has always been a huge area of interest for us.
I love that stuff. It's not only very interesting, but I think it's totally needed to create also a mature financial market, right? Like to create something that's more than just some of this DeFi that we're seeing, sort of V1 DeFi stuff, where it's like very disjointed products and people creating the ecosystem kind of on their own. We need these more mature style products and a whole ecosystem's worth of products, right? So I'd like to, let's maybe go across the board. We jumped into Rafael already with Trust Token. Ivan, tell us a little bit more about Pennyworks and what you guys are doing, so we can dive in a little deeper for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a similar theme, right? So you start with a system where you only had crypto tokens, right, or risky tokens, and then you have a world where, hey, now we have stable coins, which theoretically you consider that as a blockchain native construct, but really it's also a mapping of a real world asset, right? The asset is the dollar. So this is like the first baby step, right? So it's like as people say, the primitive Lego building blocks of crypto, right? So then the next thing you have on that as a natural evolution of that is borrow and lending, right? The basic financial constructs. And so that's super exciting in terms of if you're comfortable with crypto being able to do that. Unfortunately, the current financial system is wired so that you're not directly the bearer of assets. You're not directly the one that's controlling the mechanism for that. And people kind of gotten used to it. So, as much as DeFi is awesome, if you're crypto native, some people are fundamentally uncomfortable. It'd be hard for me to convince my mom, like, yeah, just don't worry, type in this code, and if you forget the code, you lose everything, but don't worry about it, right? And so really getting that a compliant way or a traditional financial way for them to only extract the investment vehicle portion without the operational portion of the blockchain. Right?
So who custodies it on their behalf in your system?
So in our system, what they're doing is that we're in compliance. They're purchasing our securities, right? So we are in the interpretation selling securities, and they're buying our debt securities, right? And then in which case we have an obligation to them. But the benefit of that is that then we are able to manage the crypto using our expertise and the scale of the actual business to not have random, MetaMask wallet or so on and so forth and losing the funds. So it's more like, hey, crypto is 100% transparent, right? Just like a lot of investments are transparent, but still people delegate some of that responsibility because either one, they don't want to worry about it, they're not feeling as confident about it, or they just want to leverage somebody else for the operational piece. And so we take all of that into consideration, and given the convenience of like, hey, this is just an investment at this point, right? So you interface with us, you receive a 1099, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to parse the blockchain. And even if you do parse the blockchain, for anybody that's participated in DeFi last year trying to do their DeFi taxes, I don't think that the DeFi tax people were ready, right? Especially if you're computing interest accrual and counting, right? Is it compound, is it considered capital gains, or is it interest income? That's a really, really big challenge.
You can't just hit the export button on your Zerion and send it to a CPA and be like, bro, file my taxes.
Actually, I will say there are some CPAs that are really good at this and are specializing. So
how much do they charge?
A decent amount. Ivan, that was a great explanation of Pennyworks. I really like how you explain that.
Thank you. Ivan, just jumping in, do you guys provide any investment products yourself, or is it strictly, a separation there? Like, do you just kind of allow people to participate how they want, but through your construct, or do you guys whitelist?
So technically we provide at the beginning, and this we recently launched, we only provide one product, right? And that is essentially the Pennyworks notes, which is the way that you get exposure to DeFi fixed income without having to actually do anything, right?
Which DeFi products do you offer?
So we don't offer. So we provide our Pennyworks notes, which means that they invest in securities. We give them a Pennyworks note, and then we give them interest as a result of that.
So Pennyworks note is then a security. It's a private company or product, and you guys are investing in DeFi with that money.
That's right.
So what do you guys? Is it proprietary? Like
no, it's actually
is
on our web. Yeah, it's so proprietary. We'll put it on our front page.
Good. Okay. I was gonna figure out how to dance around being nice and telling you that sounds like bullshit. But I'm glad that you're very transparent about it. So what are you guys invested in?
So it's on the front page. You click how it works. We describe a little bit how collateralized lending works, because we realize besides just the crypto being a different beast, a lot of people are just not familiar with collateralized lending.
I mean, especially because they've been boxed out of it forever, right? If you wanted to be the lender in a collateralized lending situation in the United States, up until very, very recently, you had to be an accredited investor. You had to be a qualified investor in some way, right? So most people have no clue how that system works. Essentially you being a bank yourself, right? So I love that you guys do that. So is there a specific protocol you guys back, or do you guys spread it across multiple products?
Yeah, we spread it across, and right now we're fairly conservative. So really just like a Compound, Aave, Maker, and we also have Notional Finance, which provides fixed but very short-term dated loans. And so kind of that's the theme, but the overarching requirements that they are collateralized. So the idea is that you want it to be a really strong alternative to like a money market fund, something that really should be like a boring base layer that you can just set it and forget it. And if you do want something more risky, then we can create those two as a second iteration and so on and so forth.
Cool. Yeah, I love that too, because I will tell you the best. I remember, so one of my first jobs that were in tech, I kind of try to qualify it because I worked at like a teller at a bank when I was in college, and then I worked at Countrywide when I was in college in the systems architecture group, which was pre-financial crisis Countrywide, and I had you could see the writing on the wall if you were smart enough to realize, but I was like a 20-year-old college student, not really knowing what was going on, just knowing how ridiculous it was because they were offering me mortgage, and I was making literally like $9 an hour working there. It made no sense. But going back to what I was saying, what was really funny is when I got my job at MySpace, which was my first job in tech, I got a bank account at, I think at the time it was Immigrants Direct or something like that. And I was so excited to make 3% interest on my bank account. And that was like at a time where, interest rates were crazy through the roof, but that's what the savings account was getting you. And that was the best savings account you could get at the time, right? And think about that. Like that's what the average person, they feel like they're insanely lucky if they can earn 3% at a bank, right? I go through a drive-through Starbucks every day that's actually shares like the building with a bank, and I look at their products offering people 1% interest on their savings accounts, right? It's mind-blowing how terrible these products are, but people are happy to get them because they're the only ones available to them.
Well, I was... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say, so at the risk of starting some controversy here, I want to mention that rates in collateralized DeFi, the kind of stuff that Ivan, by the way, is it Ivan or Ivan?
Ivan's fine.
Ivan. Yeah. We have a bunch of our team in Poland, and so a lot of time it's Ivan with them. But Ivan, the rates that collateralized DeFi is offering right now are pretty low. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Compound is 57 basis points, 0.57% on USDC. It's more on 1.2% on DAI, 0.84% on Tether. Pretty low rates. Yeah. And one thing I want to talk about at some point is uncollateralized DeFi, which is a different point along the risk return curve, but I think potentially a much more attractive one where you can oftentimes get 8 to 12% because people are willing to pay way more to borrow uncollateralized.
Yeah. And we need to talk about why people are afraid of that at the moment because of what they've been promised from things like Celsius and all that for the last couple of years. But
true. But I will note that's CeFi, not DeFi, and
that's true.
And so that differentiation I think is very important.
But so I was my next question before we jump into Folks Finance, because we need to hear from Benedetto. It's being too polite and not interrupting. It's because it's 2 a.m. But Ivan, what's Pennyworks currently in that product? Actually, I have 2 questions. Is that product open to everyone, not just to credit investors?
Unfortunately, it's open only to credit investors. We're doing it's through a Reg D 506C. That's similar to some of the people that are in similar kind of businesses. And I think the goal here is to, there's always a silver lining to something, catastrophic events. And then the silver lining here is that you now have a track record where cryptos collapsed 70% within the span of like 3 weeks, right? Or something like that. And all the DeFi protocols are just humming along without a hiccup, right? And before that crisis, you were playing, hey, look, what if this, or hypothetical straw man argument. Yeah. Now it's like, no, this is actually,
we've been through a few of these now, if you zoom out enough. And I think that we're proving people way smarter than me on behalf of our whole industry are proving, right, the long-term value of decentralization and doing things properly and everything else, right? So what's the current rates you guys are providing? Does it fluctuate really drastically regularly?
So we keep it simple. So we change it maybe once a month or once every couple of months. Right now it's between 4 to 6%, which is not very high. A lot of the higher yield. Yeah, it's okay.
If you tell the traditional world, right, that your money is in a your money is doing this and you're earning between 4 and 6%, I think they're happy. I think in crypto, we are very jaded, and we kind of have crazy expectations that are kind of ridiculous most of the time, right? So it's one of our community members said, so still less than inflation. How dare you? But we can't control the government, unfortunately, as much as the government tells us they work for us, right? But Benedetto, let's jump into Folks Finance and hear from you. And if I remember correctly, maybe I'm getting my wires crossed from my research, but I think Folks Finance is the only one here that's not built on Ethereum, right?
Correct. We are not.
Oh, we're not either, but.
Oh, you're not? What are you built on?
We're kind of agnostic, so we just go and vet out the protocols and the yields. And so, for example, we're happy using Aave on whatever chain that they are supported. So
Gotcha.
EVM compatible so far. It's been pretty good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it makes sense because your user doesn't have to go direct, right? So you
That's
guys
right.
do it on their behalf. So there's a level of obfuscation that makes it easier for you to deal with it. But what are you built on? And tell us about Folks Finance.
So I mentioned before, I was working for a software house. So the software house was partner of Algorand. For those who doesn't know, Algorand is a pure proof of stake based blockchain with a consensus that's decentralized, secure, and scalable. So the founder is MIT professor and Turing Award Silvio Micali, and it's simply a genius of cryptography. He was the one inventing also the base of cryptography that then was used for Bitcoin and all the other, also the JK technology. So behind there is a great brain, also a great team, all coming from institution or university such as MIT. And the software house was already a partner of this. Just our founder and Silvio were met in a conference, both Sicilians. Was pure love at the beginning. And from that, we started to build our products in using Algorand, and also doing consulting on Algorand. But in general, we are blockchain agnostic. And when we saw DeFi growing, we were like, we have the competitive knowledge. We were one of the first and the fewest building on that chain, and we were okay. Let's build something cool. And we thought that leveraging the institutional trust that Algorand does, for sure, building a lending protocol would have been a good bet, because and Algorand is working a lot to getting this relationship with institution. So in our opinion, having this type of protocol verticalized on that field would have been on Algorand, so recognized as this, would have been a very good promise. And it is going very well. We launched on April this year. In July, we were the first protocol in Groat on the DeFi Llama. We have about $80 million last time I checked as TVL. Because we
so Folks Finance or the Algo DeFi community in general?
The Algo DeFi is about 250 million. We are in the second place. We don't offer just over collateralized lending. We have also the Algo Liquid governance feature. So also I think here is needed a bit of background. In Algorand there is decentralized governance voting system. So every 3 months there is this commitment of Algos, where through the Algorand Foundation website you can commit your Algo and participate in their governance. Simply we saw the inefficiencies of needing to commit the Algo, and then you can't use your liquidity in the ecosystem. So we built up a wrapped version of Algo so that you commit through Folks Finance, Algo Liquid Governance, you mint G-Algo, which stands for Governance Algo. And, we were amazing during the last commitment to work with partnership in the ecosystem. So right now, Gialgo, you can find it in all the major decentralized exchanges in Algorand. You can purchase NFTs, you can use in gaming. So it was.
I will say, I'll say that, I still don't have a lot of experience, and I don't know as much about algo as I wish I did. But I remember hearing you and some of the folks speak about algo. I think it was at our last LA Blockchain Summit, the virtual one, and I was really, really impressed. I think that there was a technical session too, where your developer evangelist was showing the Algorand Foundation's technical evangelist was showing people how to build, and it was really, really interesting. So since that time, it's been almost a year. It sounds like things have grown significantly.
Yeah, a lot. Like I saw yesterday the latest update of the ecosystem. I'm into the ecosystem 100%. I know a lot of founders, a lot of projects. But when I saw the last one, I was like, "Oh, these things are getting out of my track. It's growing so quickly."
Wow.
We have a bunch of great VCs. The foundation supports the growth. So we will see. I think the next year.
I think that's the first step in like a newer blockchain or newer platform in general is once you lose track and can't keep up with all the projects, it means something good is going on, right?
Yeah, 100%. And there is the partnership with FIFA, which it will turn out in something good for sure. So they have built in collaboration with FIFA an NFT marketplace for collectibles of the World Cup. So let's see what will be potentially of users. So
I still have the pins for each. I don't think I have every country, but I'm close to every country. The pins still in the little packages from the Happy Meals at McDonald's from when the World Cup in 1994 was in the United States. You could go to McDonald's and you could get a pin and you would get a random country in the Happy Meal. So we had to go back. And my family only let me go once a week to McDonald's because, we had to eat at home and all that, think about that now. People went from, physical pin collectible kind of things to today, we're going to be collecting those those limited edition things on the blockchain as NFTs. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and think when you will collect these in the metaverse,
Well, I need, my ape needs one of those jerseys to wear in Decentraland, right? I will say, just throwing it out there, that I grew up with soccer because of my family and stuff, and I'm not a hardcore fan of any particular team, but I'm a part of the Tezos community. I participate a lot in that community, and when I saw the Tezos AC Milan jerseys, I was, or not. Was it AC Milan? No, I'm sorry. I'm saying AC Milan because I was going to ask you something about that because you're Italian. Manchester United. There's Manchester United Tezos warm-up jerseys. I'm dying to get my hand on one just because I actually have a Manchester United jersey at my parents' house that I got when I was a kid. And now I need the modern version, nerding out because of blockchain stuff. Was Marina. I'm going to say, let me really quickly reset it, and I want to jump into some of these things, but I also want to talk a little more about Trust Token and hear about your feelings, Rafael, about the sort of blockchain agnostic world that we're kind of going into, right? But before I do that, those of you watching on one of the live streams, I know there's a bunch of you on YouTube, a bunch of you on Twitter, a bunch of you on LinkedIn and Facebook. Jump into blockchainbooze.io. I see Marina in there giving me some crap. Adele is back there. Crispin, a bunch of our friends are back there. Jump in, ask questions. And those of you who are in there, start asking any questions you have for this crew, and I will ask your questions before I ask mine, because most of you are smarter than me. I'll say most of you, and I'm looking at you, Adele. No, I'm just kidding. Adele is a genius doctorate member of our community. He's an engineer and a rock star. I'm just giving him shit. I love him. He knows me. Just in case you guys are like, why is he being such an ass to one of their community members? Oh, hey, Joshua. So feel free to ask questions. But Rafael, Folks is built on Algorand. There's about $250 million in assets on that network. That's not nothing. In the blockchain world, that's a huge deal, right? Sounds like Pennyworks just goes towards the best conservative good yield they can get their clients.
Yeah, I'm looking at Folks Finance, like 9% USDT. Some work to do, Rafael.
There we go. Rafael, I can't hear you now all of a sudden.
Oh, sorry. I said we have 10.4 on USDT, just to be clear.
All
but,
right.
but point taken.
Let's start a
price war.
If this was centralized finance, you actually could just ratchet it up against each other until somebody gets a client, right?
And we should just be clear, none of this is investment advice. Please do your own research. But Alana, I agree. It's very interesting to see how each ecosystem, Algorand, Tezos, etc., is trying to win the L1 war. I'd say similar to Benedetto and Ivan, I would say we are agnostic to blockchains in the sense that, our DeFi protocol, TrueFi, will go wherever the lending and borrowing demand is. Right now, TrueFi is on Ethereum L1 as well as on Optimism. And being on Optimism allows us to have lending portfolios that can make sense for much smaller lenders. If you wanted to put 100 USDC into a lending portfolio, it wouldn't make that much sense on L1, where your gas fee would take a significant cut of the interest that you're going to make over the coming months.
Yeah,
right.
On Optimism, of course, that's much more attractive. But we wouldn't have any objections to launching on other blockchains if we saw significant demand for lending and borrowing there. And we are in talks with several different L2s and some L1s as well about the possibility of launching. But ultimately, we're going to go wherever the demand is. So I would say we love Ethereum. We're big fans of Ethereum, but we're not dogmatic about Ethereum necessarily being the future if another blockchain does surpass Ethereum. That being said, I will say we also do have some major open source projects in the Ethereum community that we would be sad to lose if Ethereum ended up, completely losing to Algorand or some other blockchain. But many of those things could ultimately be transferred over if necessary.
Yeah, I think that there's also, looking at it this like all or nothing kind of way that a lot of folks like to look at it. I think the best example of that is our friends in the Bitcoin community who kind of look at it like they for lack of, and I can't say everyone is like this, but so many of them, at least publicly, like to trash talk as if somehow them trash talking somebody else makes them look better. I think that's a terrible way to talk about what makes you a better person. Actually, I had a conversation the other day. This is totally an aside, but I had a conversation the other day with somebody who asked me about a company, just a company that I know the founders of, and I had talked to many years ago when they launched their company. And they're in the blockchain space. I won't get into specifics. It's not that important. They asked me, they said, what do you think about this company? And all I could say is, I remember when I met the founder, we had an hour-long call, and all he did was talk trash about his competitor the whole time and why they're assholes, why they stole something from them, why they're bad, and why they're terrible. And by the end of the call, I remember thinking, the guy was a nice guy, but he was like, he clearly got his feelings hurt by his competitor. And I didn't know a single thing about their company other than they hated their competitor, right? And I was like, how is that? How is that going to translate to getting a customer or doing, or building a company, right? I think the Bitcoin community has to learn from that. And especially because they want to, them talking trash about Ethereum or them talking trash about shit coins or whatever they want to talk about. One, we're not freaking stupid, and we've been around for more than 6 months, and we know that about a year and a half ago, you were totally on board and fine with all of these people, or maybe you were shilling some of these projects, and now because it's good for business, you've switched sides or whatever. But also, you don't make Bitcoin look good by talking trash about other people. You just either make yourself look like an idiot, or maybe you make that thing look bad. Fine, but that doesn't make Bitcoin look better. There's so many things that are amazing about Bitcoin and why we love it. Like, talk about that. And also, if you're going to hate on someone, how about the whole centralized finance world that you built Bitcoin to circumvent? Like, let's focus there instead of the people who are somewhere in the middle that you think are taking attention away from you or something. Like, it's such a bad place to come from, this place of insecurity. It's so weird.
There's a lot of those almost like religious wars that happen in crypto, where like the best of friends can become the worst of enemies, like Protestants and Catholics, like so many similarities, but then the small differences that they might have become such large issues. And even something like Bitcoin and Ethereum communities, they do have so much that they could be aligned on, and yet some people put more attention on their differences than on what they have in common.
It drives me nuts because, like, even using the religious world as an example, right? Like, that you grew up with people. Some are really smart, some might be not so smart, some are really good people, some aren't so good people, right? Some say they're religious, some don't say they're religious, but somewhere in the middle, what you realize is, like, even somebody who's the completely opposite end of the spectrum from you religiously, if they're like a friend you grew up with or a family member and you love them and you know that they're a good person, you don't give a crap, right? But there's like, these people that are so strong, and again, they if you're not with them, you're against them, and it's such a weird, again, insecure way of being. I used to talk to the Tezos community as an example, and there weren't any bridges yet on Tezos, and I would constantly yell at people, like, why hasn't anyone launched a bridge? Because in my opinion, I think the technology is superior to so many other products, and if you believe that, then the bridge can only help you. If you don't want to launch a bridge because you're afraid of interoperability, it means you believe your product's not as good as the other side of the bridge, right? So, and I think that, Algo has done a really good job of that. It's really easy to kind of transfer assets from one blockchain to another. And now Tezos, over the years, have built multiple bridges, and some of them are really good and easy to use. And I think that only helps everyone, right? You build these products. So getting back to Trust Token and what you're doing, it sounds like you're so far mostly on EVM chains, which makes or Ethereum or EVM chains, which makes the most sense, because even as Algo grows, as Tezos grows, and things like that, it's still where the majority of the assets and the demand is, right? So,
exactly. Today it is, and it's it's great that DeFi is growing on Algorand and other blockchains, but Ethereum L1 just has the total lion's share today. And if that changes, then I think we and a lot of other DeFi protocols are going to be migrating.
Well, maybe a first question: when do you guys think that's going to change? And that's open to everybody, because there's clearly seems to be some staying power for some reason, right?
Yeah, I'm probably one of the few people here who it doesn't hold a bunch of other L1 tokens that I'm betting on. I don't know, Ivan, when that's going to change.
I will tell you. I'll tell you too, full disclosure, that a majority of my personal holdings, if I'm holding crypto, is Ethereum and Bitcoin. I do hold Tezos also. I feel like that's really important to me, because I believe, I believe, and having spent time with the community and having spent time with individuals, I do believe that technology-wise, it's one of the most amazing products. But I'm also rational enough to have grown up and seen better products lose over and over and over again in this world of user experience, marketing, and everything else, right? Remember, I mentioned that I worked at MySpace. I saw MySpace's rise and fall internally. I saw Facebook, do what they did. I've watched Twitter grow, and compete in all those things. And which one was the best product? Well, it depends on who you ask, right? But which one won? Maybe not the best products, but probably the best execution, the best marketing, and everything else. And that's up to community. In the blockchain space, that's up to community. That's up to culture. That's up to the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, Rafael mentioned open source software, right, being a huge part of it. When I first started participating in Tezos, as an example, I might have thought, based on my conversations with really smart engineers, that it was better technology. But when I wanted to mint an NFT on Tezos, I couldn't just go into GitHub, search Tezos NFT, and find 18 different repositories to learn from. Exactly. I had like half of a repository to learn from, right? But if I did the same thing on Ethereum, I had a lot of options, and I had a lot of learning, and I had a lot of documentation, and I had a lot of copy and paste, execution of things that just doesn't exist yet on other chains, which is why I made it a point to talk about Algorand's developer community when they presented at LA Blockchain Summit. I was so impressed by how much documentation and how much there was there. It's just an interesting thought. We kind of sidetracked into. Benedetto, you having built sort of first on a different chain other than Ethereum, right? You get to learn from maybe some of those projects on Ethereum, but you're building from scratch. You're building into a new community. What have you learned? What are the things that you maybe wish Algo had, or maybe you think are doing better than the rest of the Ethereum community?
Yes, so there are things in what Algorand is growing still. For example, we had a major pain that it was not fully supporting Ledger. So by up as us, we were very limited from that. We had to do tricky workaround in order to have Ledger compatible with our protocol. But now Algorand has updated it, so it works. After a little fight from us to request it, now it is. But indeed, the team from both Algorand Inc. and Algorand Foundation is incredibly good and is growing very well. I think the technology is great. Just to give you a sneak peek of one of their latest update, it's state proofs. So they launched these. I think it has been launched the first state proof of Algorand. So state proofs is a cryptographic key that allows a very secure bridging technology. So obviously it needs the light client on both chains. So right now we have just on Algorand, but when it will be deployed, for example, on Ethereum, and I know there are people working on that, it is a very secure way to use cryptography for building bridges. And that's totally a new technology.
When you say that, like, what's the benefit?
Because you don't need basically the validator of the off-chain part that needs to approve the two transaction oversight, but you just have cryptography. And basically, I'm not a technician. Okay, so my understanding is learned from speeches, right? So I might say something slightly wrong, but the concept is right. So basically, on Algorand, every 15 blocks, you get to have these proof that represents the history of all the other blocks. So by reading this key, you are able to secure that the funds are in those wallets, right, in the respective addresses. And that ensures that when you do a bridge, you understand that what is being done from our side and the other is correct, 100%.
How long is every block or every 15 blocks
15.
On Algorand?
On Algorand, it's 3 seconds per block.
2 seconds per block?
Three.
Okay.
They upgraded just in the latest updates. It's 3 seconds, 2.9, and 6,000 transactions per second. So, and you must think that on Algorand, the percentage of this power used is very low. So, they are scaling up before we have the mass adoption. We are betting on this and we are getting ready on that. And compared to other chains that they reach the limit and then they fix the problem, Algorand has a very different way of doing this. It's always trying to be prevalent, not having the problem, always testing a lot, because it's a very solid team, as I said, from MIT, and Silvio, it's a very genius. So they don't really want to have problem, also because one of the way of marketize Algorand is never been down, and the instant finality always working. And I think that matters a lot, honestly, especially when you are talking to institutions, to governments, as they are doing, right? So, and when you have billions maybe of transactions that a government is sending to another, you don't really want that the block is down, and that you want that the chain works. And in that case, really, Algorand makes a difference compared to other competitors. Obviously, it is what it is. The community is small. You don't find code open source that you can just copy and paste. This is difficult. So at your question at the beginning, when we started this, we had to build everything from scratch, really. We take Haven Compound as example, and we started to study it. But I can tell you something. For us, it was good. It was difficult, but good, because we were able to see inefficiencies on, for example, how the V2 was doing some stuff. For example, I can tell you, we never liked the incentive of Aave, the incentive model. So
the model?
Yeah, the incentives model. Yeah, okay. So you may borrow at 5% APR, but you are receiving 10% APR. So how this is sustainable, how this could you think in traditional finance? I've never seen it. And I don't think it's sustainable for definition, because you are paying out more than you are receiving. And it ends up also that you are paying out someone that is getting liquidated. So you don't really want it. And so we thought, okay, let's do something different. We did cashback. So we just copied it from traditional finance. If a user is repaying its interest APR over its loan, we pay him in cashback. Now we have Algo from the foundation as rewards, because we haven't launched our token yet. But you are giving us revenue. You are not putting us in danger because you are not getting liquidated. I incentivize you. You are good users. I want you to be in my community. Yeah, I'm doing it. You are not. By you are liquidated. We get the fee out of that, and we are all happy.
That's interesting. So DeFi with cashback, as opposed to with the normal farming model that many DeFi protocols use.
Yeah, and I can tell you, we had a comparison with another protocol that used that model, also Algorand. We burn much less rewards, but still the users are happy, even if they could have almost 200% cashback. We don't set 200% because otherwise it would be risky, right? Because it grows together with the utilization ratio. Is set as a percentage over the interest APR. No, I'm not going to technical. For sure, you can understand me.
There's a lot of unsustainable models I've seen when groups do get grants from foundations or things like that. They think, okay, let's just crank up the APY or whatever, so we can pull in users, and then either they're giving away their token, which ends up dumping, and so it ends up.
This is just a war of incentives, honestly. Yeah. I never liked it, and I think DeFi will never get mass adoption with that.
Yeah.
So in that way, we will have just Web3 community jumping from an ecosystem to another, depending where there are the incentives. But if we want to build something sustainable, for sure we need.
It's okay. We lost Ivan for a second. Hopefully,
collateralized lending. I think it's very important. But at the same time, what I think will change really the adoption is real-world tokenized asset. Because when you will be able to have an over-collateralized loan by using your house, maybe, that's, in my opinion, very connected to the reality. So yeah, I think this way, and I think that DeFi has to be sustainable in order that when we will arrive to that point where we will have a lot of tokenization of real world assets, then we will be able to integrate it.
Yeah,
I have so many thoughts, not just on the real world asset side, but we're talking about layer 2s versus other layer 1s and side chains and things like that.
Totally.
I have like so many places we could have taken this conversation.
yeah.
I feel like I need to have you guys back so we can do it again, because we're almost up at the hour, and I want to. We're not going to have any real time for this question either, but let's do it anyway. I would love to get an opinion from you guys. We're a few hours away from the ETH merge. I feel like that's exciting. I think Benedetto, you said you're even going to a Web3 hang party or something.
It's going to be in the
like 8 a.m. for you, so it's going to be a weird party, but kind of awesome. Rafael, I think you had some thoughts of it before we hopped on live, but we don't have a lot of time. But I'd love to get everyone's opinion on the merge. What do you think is going to happen? Any weird predictions or thoughts before I ask everyone to give their plugs? And then I'm gonna have to have you guys back. I have so many feelings. Like you mentioned Trust Token on Optimism, but I just spoke to one of our close friends who's building on Arbitrum, and he's only able to launch this really sophisticated DeFi product on Arbitrum because of the throughput, because of what makes it different from the Ethereum layer 1 and everything else. So there's so many things we can jump into. We're gonna have to do this again. But what's ETH merge? We didn't even talk about it.
I can give my quick take, Alon, but I agree. I think Benedetto just opened up like a zillion things about DeFi and what's sustainable and what's not, and what's going to cause growth long term, and real world assets that we've got to talk about. So I hope this conversation is just getting started.
By the way, I mentioned this earlier, LA Blockchain Summit, everyone. I'm saying this publicly now, but I'm going to make sure it happens also privately. All three of you are 100% invited to speak at the event.
I am a speaker already selected there. So
okay, good. Benedetto, we're going to have you back. Rafael, Ivan, I hope you join us in LA in November 1st through 3rd. We should purposely do that talk there, but let's talk about it and figure it out. I hope you guys join us. Rafael, either it's a short flight from San Francisco or a long drive from San Diego, but you should come too.
I would love to. Yeah, send me the details.
And awesome. You too, Ivan. I'll send you guys notes about it. But okay, what's your merge feelings?
All right, very briefly on the merge, I would just say, as a company that has bridging between real world assets and DeFi as part of our DNA, TrueFi, major uncollateralized lending protocol on DeFi, TrueUSD, and other major stable coins. For us, the prospect of a fork is quite concerning. But I understand both why many people in the Ethereum community think we need to take this step forward, but also why some people are concerned about it and are threatening, you could say, or at least proposing the idea of having a fork and making a chain that's going to stay on proof of work. I understand that perspective too, because proof of work is more proven at some level. Yeah. So to me, it's a difficult question, and I don't know what the coming weeks are going to hold.
Okay, we just really quickly before the other guys give their take on the merge, or their 30-second take, which isn't enough time for anything. If you have 2 seconds to answer this question, what percentage chance of a fork having medium success and use and actual use to happen?
30%, I'd say.
Ooh, that's higher than I would have guessed. Okay.
Totally out of my ass. Okay.
I like the answer. I was gonna say 30%. I don't know what happened there.
30%
I was gonna say 20,
too?
but honestly, after I saw how many people were trying to borrow ETH on Aave because of thinking of that will happen, it's like maybe there is something beneath that I don't know. So I might say also about 30 now, but before I was thinking about 20.
Yeah, you're seeing people in the market betting
Yeah.
on this in different ways.
The average to
interesting,
solve
like,
the loan.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I was thinking about, I said this before we went live when Rafael said something about a fork. I was thinking from it, I didn't even really consider, and maybe this is a tell, but I didn't even consider a fork like an actual thing I would use. I was thinking of it like, how are people going to pump this idea so that they could create, like the proof of work ETH fork and then dump on the community, right? Like I was only thinking from it from a cynical standpoint. I wasn't thinking,
They might.
you know what, there's going to be good security reasons to have a proof of work ETH fork, right? Like there is,
Right.
Is
That's the
that
thing that's
called
interesting about crypto is just how the cynical and the genuinely technical interweave, right? And you can't always tell which is which or what the fraction is.
And one day you might think of something in a cynical nature and then you're proven wrong. Very regularly, I think we're all proven wrong, or at least educated on things, because
Totally.
we're surrounded by the smartest people in the world, right? So Ivan, how do you feel about a fork? Is it going to affect Pennyworks at all? I mean, you guys are kind of blockchain agnostic.
Well, I mean, I just want to mention there is another chain called Ethereum Classic, just in case you guys haven't heard about it. And so
I've met
Precedent.
a lot of people who are building on Ethereum Classic. I've met some of the foundation people, and
Really?
I've only ever been really impressed by them. And I get that some of the Ethereum community and people, it's like the butt of the joke, right? And I could pile onto that too. Like, yeah, I can totally see it. But when I've met people who are serious about Ethereum Classic, it's like when you have these conversations with people and you're like, you had this preconceived notion of like, oh, this is silly, or this is like whatever. And then you're like, oh shit, like she was genuinely really smart, or that guy was. I really like them. And all of a sudden you're realizing like, these are good people too. And I don't think that they did it for some cynical reason, right? And that
totally a lot. And I think there's something very interesting there, because at one level I'm like, okay, Ethereum Classic, like, is it a serious competitor to Ethereum or a serious alternative to Ethereum in any way? Not really today. But on the other hand, like the principles on which it's founded, I kind of agree with. Like, how would we feel today about using a fork of Ethereum to reverse a transaction? I mean, there's hacks all the time on Ethereum L1 all the time. We don't even think about forking the blockchain to mess with those hacks. I mean, it would be massively controversial if you did that. So at some level, I very much agree with the principles that Ethereum Classic stands for.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Like, but I think that we have also this feeling because of all the really ridiculous Bitcoin forks from early on. Like, and what was that?
Bitcoin Diamond.
Bitcoin Diamond.
Yes. To the moon.
You know what's really funny? I remember having a call one time, and now we're going way over time, but I remember having a hangout session with my cousin once where while we were hanging out on like a FaceTime, he was plugging in his ledger going like, where are all my forks? And he because he hadn't yet claimed any of the forks, or like he still had, some of the first ones, right? Like, what was that? Yeah, like he didn't get his BCH yet or anything like that. And so, he's like, I should get this. It's worth something, like when we're talking about it in 2017, 18, whatever, right? It's such a funny thing. Are we going to have a version of that like in 6 months with Ethereum? Will there be like 7 forks of people saying they're the real Ethereum, and will we be claiming them just so we can sell them or do something with them?
I think we all hope not.
I hope not, but it creates such a funny and interesting dynamic. I think for the mass use situation, my feelings about the merge and everything right now are that I hope that the narrative can actually drive, because I think the Ethereum is bad for the environment narrative is mostly complete bullshit, right? Like it really is. When you compare it to comparable things, it's ridiculous, right? But I hope that the merge does create an opportunity, like I've seen in the mainstream media over the last few days, to say, this merge is now completely making Ethereum great for the environment, or at least a wash or whatever. And I hope that things like even like the Starbucks NFTs and things like that get rid of that ridiculous narrative, because at the end of the day, as we say in crypto, memes are money, and that narrative is a big driver of adoption. I'm sure. Right. Algo doesn't have those same things, but when you talk about NFTs on Algo to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, they're like, "Oh, that thing that's horrible for the environment, NFTs." Right. Like, it's ridiculous. None of it makes sense. So that's my feelings. Is I hope this helps drive the narrative, and I hope it stays as secure and as awesome as it has been, and as we've enjoyed it to be. And it's going to be a fun, I think. I don't think it's going to be a fun few days. Like some people think it's going to be a crazy few days. I think it's going to be a crazy few weeks until we really know what's going on, right?
Well, crypto always keeps it interesting. That's for sure.
On the flip side, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ivan.
So I was attending some of these investment conferences, right? So completely not really about crypto, but like the two main things that people talk about besides crypto is ESG. Right? What is ESG? What is greenwashing, and so on and so forth? So regardless of whether there's certain people like, oh, I'm against NFTs, it does remove a talking point that is against it, whether it's fair or not, right? It does remove
exactly.
it. So now you have the gaming community. It's like, well, look, I'm spending all this money. Now I can do it on the blockchain and actually retain some agency.
I'm going to show you something. I was holding this in my hand, flipping it around because it was sitting on my desk, not realizing what this is. This is... And I didn't even pay attention to it until like one of the last couple minutes. I was like, what am I flipping in my hand? And I looked at it, and it is a Roblox redeemable token that one of my kids got in a physical toy that somebody gave them as a gift, like they bought at Target or something. And this is an exclusive virtual item called a glorious mullet, right? And my kids have come to me multiple times in the last couple years because they've been early adopters of crypto. If you guys can't see this, my son poo-poo.eth, right? So he's we're a crypto family, and they know what NFTs are, and they've come to me multiple times saying, this Roblox game is launching an NFT. They're doing an NFT thing. And then I go onto Twitter to follow that game developer because I'm like, ooh, I should try to get them on Blockchain and Booze, or I got to see what's going on here. And every single time, the majority of their community or the parents of the kids in the community are inundating them with public messages of what horrible people they are. You're indoctrinating our children into this thing that's bad for the environment, the scam of crypto and whatever. And then those people end up backtracking and backpedaling and don't end up launching the NFT. And this is probably one of the biggest gaming platforms in the world, right? And this should be an NFT, right? If anything should be an NFT, I want a Roblox glorious mullet in my Algo, Tez wallet, Ethereum wallet, right? Optimism. Like that is the perfect item. But the thing that's, I think, the great benefit is if the narrative changes, and it will over time, regardless of if, it happens with the merge or not. I think it will happen with the merge, but like, regardless, think about that. Like my kids who will, be adults in the years to come, right? And everyone else, they're digital natives. They think this is way cooler, right? Yeah, and bringing back the glorious mullet. By the way, I'm gonna have to change the intro song to Blockchain and Booze to Ape Drape by the Vandals. If you guys don't know what that is, talking to the community. No. But they're digital natives. If you gave them a Pokemon card or a comic book, or you said, or you could have a glorious mullet in your Roblox account, they'd take the digital item 100%.
Totally.
Not like, hey, for us, we're crypto natives, but a comic book is still cool and a digital one is still cool. Like where it's like a 50-50, or older people where 90% of the time they'll take the physical one. They will 100% of the time take the digital item. That to them is more real. And that's a huge, we should be insanely bullish on what we're doing, regardless of everything going on, just based by that example. So I feel like I'm talking too much, but we got to wrap up because we're over time and people want to hop into blockchainbooze.io and hang out at tables. But really quickly, each person, starting with Rafael, we'll just go down the way. give us a plug. Where should we follow you? Where should we follow Trust Token?
So you can find me on Twitter at Rafael Cosman, Rafael Cosman. TrueFi at TrueFiDAO, TrueFiDAO, and our site TrueFi.io has all of the links as well as links to our Discord community. We would have loved to have everyone from the Blockchain and Booze community come and visit our community, get involved in our protocol. If you're excited about the future of DeFi and about what lending can become on chain, please come and join us and chat.
Love it. Ivan, where to follow you, where to follow Pennyworks?
Yes, Pennyworks is Twitter, Pennyworks _ and as well LinkedIn, Pennyworks the company, our site, pennyworks.com or Pennyworks. Most of the other top level domains. My Twitter handle at CRLFQ, completely unrelated, but very short.
Nice.
And looking forward to anybody that's interested in onboarding their mother to crypto or have the most baby step way to get an introduction to the value add that crypto can offer. Come check us out, pennyworks.com.
Love it. And Benedetto, follow you and Folks Finance.
Yes, my handle on Twitter is Benedetto Bio, all connected, and Folks Finance is Folks Finance. But I suggest you to jump on our website, it's folks.finance, subscribe to our newsletter. We have a big Discord community with many ambassadors. Also, if you need support in other languages, we are all there for our community. I always say our community is everything, so we always listen to you, and we are happy to onboard you.
I love it.
In us.
I love it. On the episodes where I have the Blockchain Booze theme song version of the intro, I stole the quote from Lunar Crush, which they say, "Without community, there is no crypto." So I truly believe in that, and I think we've got one of the best ones. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys all so much for joining us. For those of you who are hanging backstage or watching the streams, go to blockchainbooze.io. It'll redirect you to our new site, which is at DGH events and all that stuff. But just you can log in. You'll be able to turn on your camera, hang with the community. For those of you who are back there, I'm going to switch it in 1 sec, turn on your cameras, hang out. I'm going to sneak off, have dinner with the family. And then I think I'm going to come back on and stay really, really late, like Rafael suggested before this. We got the merge tonight. Or Ivan, I think you said it, who's up till 2 a.m. I think our time, it's only going to be like 11 p.m., midnight or so, West Coast time. So let's do it. I'll probably hang out there till midnight. It'll be pretty fun. Have a great night, everyone. Hope to see you back. Hope to see you in LA at LA Blockchain Summit. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alon. Thanks for having us on.
Alon. Thanks.
Thank you.